years, they felt the effects. Then those sanctions were lifted. So for the past 7 or 8 years, they have not been under international sanctions, and Libya has flourished from a commercial perspective.
So maybe freezing some assets. Thanks very much for coming in to talk to us. Wanda Fahmy-Udom, thank you. Well, that's all for us here from Washington. Now to London with all the reaction from Europe to the situation in Libya.
Thanks very much, Jane. Just some breaking news. We're hearing that the Swiss government is freezing the assets of Muammar Gaddafi. NGOs had been calling for just such a freeze for the last few days, and it is possibly the beginning of a new financial stranglehold outside of Libya. But back to concern, and very real concern, over a possible large influx of refugees from Libya. It's Italy with the strongest voice on the topic, backed up by a number of their Mediterranean neighbours. So in Brussels, there's been an emergency meeting. There's been an urgent request at that meeting for help to cope with the potentially large numbers of people coming across the border. But some EU ministers are taking a more cautious approach. They've warned Italy against what they call over-dramatising the situation, saying far fewer refugees than expected have arrived in Europe so far. Well, Harry Smith now joins us live from Rome. Italy could well be at the epicentre of a potential refugee crisis. So what kind of response, Harry, are the Italians hoping? What kind of European response are the Italians hoping for?
What the Italians are hoping for is support. What the Italians are hoping for is solidarity. Italy knows only too well what happens when there is chaos in North Africa. It's already seen it from the situation in Tunisia. It's now expecting an even greater, a more problematic situation from what's happening in Libya. So what the Italians are hoping for is simply this, that they called together yesterday all the neighbours who have borders on the Mediterranean, France, Spain, Cyprus, and Greece, and they've asked them to help them go to the European Union, the 27 members of the European Union, and say, listen, we need some help here. We cannot cope with this entirely on our own. And they are, Italy is the country that knows. This is this was the response from the Italian government when they went into the meeting in Brussels today. Let's just have a listen to it.
L'invasione di, come ha detto, ha stimato Frontex ieri.
An invasion of 1 to 1.5 million refugees in Italy, as estimated by Frontex on Wednesday, would bring any state to its knees. And we want the European Union to stand together with us to welcome the refugees and put them up.
Well, a call for help there from one minister. But what about other ministers, other politicians in Italy, Harry? What have they been saying?
There's a problem here in Italy, and the problem is that the Prime Minister, Berlusconi, does not have complete support from either all the politicians or indeed all the voters. We don't need to go round the houses with the problems that the Prime Minister has. It's an enormous problem for Italy, and people here really do feel very strongly about the likelihood of an influx of immigrants from North Africa. It's very difficult to understate that. It is something here which people feel very strongly about, and as I say, it's very difficult to understate.
All right, Harry, we're going to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Well, as that crisis in Libya escalates, European countries are stepping up their evacuation plans. Here are some of Thursday's developments. Now, Greece is sending 3 military planes and a frigate to bring home citizens in Tripoli and Saba. 2 passenger ships have also set off for Crete with around 4,500 people on board. A second Dutch plane has now reached Tripoli. Some 70 nationals have been reported as being in Libya as of Thursday. Bosnia's first 3 aircraft are heading back to Sarajevo, each carrying up to 1,500 evacuees. British nationals have started to arrive home. Both charter flights and military plane deployments have been sent out along with a British warship. And a small number of Irish citizens have reached London's Gatwick Airport. Some passengers said they'd been through through hell.
At the airport, there's all outside the airport is just covered with people camping out. As you go into the airport, it's people on the floor, like mostly Egyptians with visas. They're doing like mass evacuations in there.
People are very tense, they're very nervous, and just all concerned. The airport is bedlam. There are all nationalities trying to get out. Planes can't land, permissions, Turkish Airlines are the 2,500 Turkish that they're trying to bring home. It's just the airport is bedlam. You can hardly move, and getting there is quite a gauntlet.
Well, the turmoil is throwing up forgotten voices from the country's past. Libya had been a monarchy until Muammar Gaddafi took power in a military coup in the late 1960s. The exiled king has long since died, but now his successor spoke out from London. He's asking the international community to help remove Gaddafi from power. Barnaby Phillips went to meet him.
Libya, former Italian colony, becomes an independent state, and the Emir Idris el-Senussi is crowned its king, acclaimed by crowds of loyal subjects.
January 1952, and King Idris takes the Libyan throne, a close friend of the West. But the monarchy did not last. Colonel Gaddafi led the 1969 coup, and those loyal subjects quickly changed sides. In London, I've been talking to King Idris's exiled successor, Mohammed, who calls himself the Crown Prince. Is he now in touch with the leaders of the movement to oust the Gaddafi regime?
I think everybody, they lead the revolution. There is no particular people. The whole Libyan people, they lead this revolution, especially young people.
But obviously some people are more important than others. For example, generals who might have changed sides. Are you trying to contact the powerful people?
What I try to do now to stop the massacre, I try to put pressure and call the international community to stop this killing. Gaddafi, he must leave. And that's what I try to do every day.
So what should the international community do, and what can the international community do?
The international community, they know the way to stop the massacre.
But are you in favour of military intervention from the international community?
I think anything stop killing, I will support it.
Are you planning to return to Libya? Are you thinking of going home now?
It's not the issue now going home. Of course my heart is with my people there, but the main issue now is the massacre. This is the main issue.
This is an anti-Gaddafi revolution, if you like. It's not a pro-monarchy, not a pro-restoration of the monarchy movement, is it?
Of course, yeah. People came in the street, by themselves after 40 years, and they asked for freedom. They asked to live as a human. That's what they ask.
Do you think the restoration of the monarchy in Libya would be a good idea?
This is up to Libyan people, but again, there is a human disaster and people dying, and this is what make me move now and use all my contact to stop this blood.
Sir, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera English.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you.
Well, an update on Libya from Europe, and the German president